Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor as due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noise in this gospel broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. Lord's will to be edifying. This is a video that was uploaded by the beloved brother Ashiar from the GMS Charlotte camp. It says, "Revenge on Edoms, thy own lips testify against thee," which is through the Spirit. Hey, you got a group of Amalekites here, which is basically at war with Western Christendom, okay, which we know that the Christian church, such as the Protestants and the Catholic Church, and which set up those of the Presbyterian Church, which means Council of Elders. Also, you have the Baptists and Methodists. All these things come out of the Roman Catholic Church, okay? And to believe it or not, the concept of the Roman Catholic Church actually started up by Jake, because you had what they call the Eastern Roman Empire. You had the Western Roman Empire, which the Western Roman Empire fell. Then Jake assumed the rulership seat of the Roman Empire at that time, which is known as the Byzantine Empire or the Holy Roman Empire, which Constantine the Great, followed by his son, and the Council of Nicaea. A lot of those were Jakes and wicked Jakes of these sects that set up particular papacies in order to push what do you call it's a particular term I'm looking for, and they mentioned it in the scriptures. But basically at the time of apostasy, man, when the great deception and the falling away have come, you had men that was set up in the power seat to lead Jake astray. Okay, now fast forwarding, you have what you call here the Khazars, or you have what they call Sephardic Jews, which a lot of people don't really know the difference between the Sephardic and what you call the Khazars. But we're going to go into a little history on that, and some articles that well, not even an article, it's a document that I got that really goes into the history of how these people assume power. Okay, because I got a book called Nature Knows No Color Line, and also I have a book called The 13th Tribe, which is by Arthur Koestler, which you can't get around this. If you can't see that these people are imposters, then the Spirit of the Lord is just not really dealing with you. Okay, at the point these people have perpetuated lies, they have hijacked history, they have paid off corporations to teach a poorly generated lie, to say the least. But yet you got the likings of this guy by the name of Haman Malone, or Vocab, which he likes to throw stones at us because we're calling ourselves the Hebrew Israelites, which according to Bible prophecy, the curses, and just our condition as a people, and the fact that the Bible describes the Jews on looking like people of color, we're called identity extremists, we're called radicals, we're called black supremacists. But yet you can have these rats right here to claim our heritage, and yet they get a pass. But the funny part about it is that they're going into Western Christendom, which is the Christianity of the Western Empire, or the Americas, so to speak. They're basically going neck and neck with the Edomites and saying that you white Christians are Edomites. Okay, well, if the white Christians are Edomites, which not all of them are not Edomites. Okay, all so-called white people ain't Edomites. Now, the nation of Edom is predominantly the so-called white race, but you have Jake that was mixed and mingled among those people. And in the book of Nature Knows No Color Line, it goes into it. Okay, but nonetheless, you so-called white people being the biblical Idumeans, Edoms, what are you so-called Jews then if you're not looped in with Idumea, or if you're not looped in with Christendom? Okay, because if they're Edomites, then what are you? Because from last time I recall, you got a guy by the name of B.B. Malakowski, which is nothing, not a you-know-who, basically calling, the Palestinians, or I forgot, he was calling them Amelek. But wait a minute, if they're Amelek, then who the hell are you? And if the so-called white people in the West are Edomites, then who the hell are you? So this man is trapped. He's like a rat caught in a trap, and he's trying to gnaw his way out of it, but he can't get past history, and overall, you can't get past Bible prophecy. Okay, Bible prophecy is the test of tests of all time, withstands the truth of the Holy Scriptures. If you don't believe nothing else in the Bible, the prophecies speak for itself. And that's one thing you cannot defeat is prophecy. All right, so I'm going to play a couple of minutes of this video and go into these couple of documents because I got something that's real interesting too. How they like to say, well, the Jews were slaves and white people started slavery. But wait a minute, I got an article here that says and the Spirit had me to hold on to this. I've been sitting on this article for damn near a year now. All right, and I've always wanted to go into it, but the Spirit, like, you know what, just hold on to it. And all this information is coming out. And the time to go out, the Spirit say, go up in the phone and look at the article you got. And bingo, it says the Jewish role and the slave trade, the shocking truth. Now, if you want to compare the affliction of Israel in these times, which is the so-called Negro, Hispanic, and Native American done by Esau, and it says Jewish control over American slavery. And it goes into all the slave ships and the Jewish families that own them. So wait a minute, if so-called white man in America is Esau, but yet you funded the bloody history of slavery in the West, then who the hell are you? You just think you're going to get a pass, bro? But nope. But anyway, let's play a couple of minutes of this video and they're going to they cut themselves so many times. But here we go.
They're called B'nai Edom, who are the Westerners. So it's the whole Christian world, whatever it is. It's ancient Europe became modern Europe, became, today's Europe, which spills into, obviously, with the Mayflower America. Edom falls to them. They lose. The Western countries lose this war. Yeah.
It's like they lost in Vietnam.
No, very much not like that. Because it's all their armies, everybody, their whole sovereign. They're sovereign.
But these weirdos, these people are weird, man. So you want me to think that the people of the Lord is going to be a bunch of Shirley Temple Curl wearing, imposter indulging frauds like you with no rhythm, no salt, have no substance, okay? You've been proven to be the scum of the earth, and yet you want to sit up here and throw a rock and hide your hand. Like you don't fund the West. The whole Western hemisphere, the Americas on down, is all owned by Amelek, man. Okay, who the hell you think funds the U.S. government? How the hell do you think you have a Department of Treasury? Okay, when you go into the, what do you call, the Federal Reserve, right, which is a private-owned bank by it's a private-owned bank owned by the elite family, starting with the Rothschilds, which are Amalekites, right? That's a private-owned bank, so to speak. That's private. Ain't no typical white boy own the fucking Federal Reserve. You own that. The IRS, you own everything, man. You fund the West. So what do you mean that the West is gonna fund you, bro? You are funding the West. You are the ones that's behind it all. You're the wizard behind the curtain. Now, yeah, Esau, Edom, the coming cracker is going to get the same fate. But overall, bro, there's a starting point. And you are Amalek, man. Okay, you are the head tribe. Because like B.B. Milwaukowski said, he said, if they're Amalek, referring to the nations he was at war with, and the common Edomite over here is Esau, then you're basically saying that you are in tandem with the Arabs, because we know that Amalek is the grandson of Esau, man. Okay, I believe he's the son of Eliphaz, if I'm not mistaken, but that's the grandson of Esau, which is Amalek. Okay, which out of the 5 dukes of Edom come your elite structure. So wait a minute, man. You mean to tell me that the Edomites and the Arabs, or was it the Arabs or the Iranians, who I think it may have been the Iranians, if I'm not mistaken. But he mentioned that one of them was Amalek. So wait a minute, you mean to tell me that so-called white people have something in common with Arabs or with Iranians, right? Even though, we are distant relatives because they are Hebrews. Okay, the so-called white man is a Hebrew. Elam is a Hebrew. Okay, the Syrians, they are Hebrews. The Asians, they are Hebrews. The Arabs, they are Hebrews. Okay, so we have that. We are the same, I won't say stock, but we are within the same gensis, so to speak. But you have different families and you have a chosen line, which you are not of it.
It's going to be gone. They will no longer be a superpower. Vietnam didn't affect America as a superpower. Why? Because they destroyed the Second Temple. Meaning,
and it was a well-known fact that a lot of those Herodians were Amalekites, all right? I speculate that Philip the Macedon and Alexander the Great, I speculate that they may have been Amalekites, man. I speculate that. Now, I'm pretty sure you can trace the lineage. I came across something a while ago, and through speculation, I was like, what if Alexander the Great was probably a Amalekite? He could have been, because, for one thing, he did, when you go into Onias, Onias the high priest, and Amalek, Alexander, he showed how can I say it? He showed basically he showed respect into our customs, the temple. He came into the temple, he gave the priest tribute, he bowed down, he understood the customs to some degree because, he's seen it head up, so it makes sense that when you trace the line back, that a lot of those Herodians and Macedonians, a lot of them could have been Amalek, man, especially those that sat in a power seat. So the fact that I assume that the Herodians could have been Amalek. I mean, when you go see that movie Gladiator 2, and the head delegates of that time, you can't tell me that those was not Amalekites, man. And Amalek is just another tribe, just the top tribe in Esau. Just like in Jake, you got Judah, you got Levi, you got Benjamin. Amalek is just the head family of Esau. So what do you mean that they destroyed the second temple? No, man, that was your people that did that. Because you had Edomites back then calling themselves Jews or of the Herodian line, where, yeah, we're Jews. No, all because you had Herodians that looked like Israelites, because you had women that married into the nobilities of Edom. Okay?
You were all rooting for the West this whole time. You forgot about the fact that they have major debt to pay. And that is, they destroyed the base of Migdash.
And China never touched the base of Migdash.
Right, they don't even know what it is.
Probably supply material with it.
And not only because they destroyed base of Migdash, you ready for this? Think about the Holocaust now and all the pogroms and all the what were those called, crusades, wiping out whole cities of Jews. The Hitzaru, the Israel Begolas, and they caused pain to the Jewish people in their exile. Meaning they persecuted. Hitzaru persecuted. Meaning they're going to get killed in the end, because God is going to go on the side of probably China, wipe out the whole West. Why? Because of the destruction of the second temple, which is still a debt they never paid, and because of the persecution. I mean, all that persecution they just gone through, it's still a bill. It's still a bill that has to get paid by the West.
And so even though China, as evil as it is, because they never destroyed the base of Migdash and they never touched the Jewish people.
They don't have the debt.
One of the descendants, one of the children of Esau, is Rome, meaning the Western world, Western philosophy, Western religion. That's Rome. And in the end of history, Rome will be part of the redemption of the world, because they will adopt the Yaakov's method. And that's what Yaakov was wrestling with, the angel that represented Esau. They were fighting it out. Which way are we going to go? And Esau, the angel of Esau, eventually agreed or submitted to Yaakov's approach. So Yaakov won the wrestling match. But it was really an ideological fight.
It doesn't really show us that Esau made his way back to Torah, in a sense of things. Was there? No, do you think there was a certain?
That's a good observation. There's no mention anywhere that Esau turned around and became good. But the main thing is his descendants.
Okay.
The evil and then the redemption, the tshuva, is in his descendants. They quickly went bad, like Rome.
Right.
Destroyed the temple. That's that's a no-no.
Yeah.
Esau has to be finished.
All the troublemakers to our nations came out from Esau. The offspring, the seed of Esau, they ended up in Germany, in Germania. So the Germans also, the Aryan race, it's all coming out from Esau.
Who's going to come out of Esau? Germany. That will almost destroy the whole world. But it's not the first time it happened. Their grandparents already did it 2,000 years earlier, the Romans. Remember Hashem to the children of Edom, all these Europeans, all the Romans, all the people of Edom that came from Esav. At Yom Yerushalayim, the day that Jerusalem was destroyed. Because they said, destroyed Yerushalayim all the way to the foundation of it. When the time comes that Hashem takes revenge against you, how great it would be the day that Hashem will take all your filthy people, include your children, and destroy all of them for what you did, breaking his temple and killing his children. God will take revenge against all the Gentiles, descendants of Esav, what we call today Christians, for the Holocaust, for the Inquisitions, for the destruction of the temples, for many, many things that they still have an open bill. They still don't pay for it. If you're an enemy of...
No, he's on point, because you have not paid for it, but don't try to get yourself out of trouble, bro. And this is nothing but Cain basically being a fugitive and a vagabond, because one thing about a fugitive, a smart fugitive, he will hide in plain sight and disguise himself as other people. And that's basically what this dude is doing. All right. So I was looking for the pamphlet when it meant that Edom was modern Jewry. I can't recall where I saw that at, but it's neither really here and there, because, I mean, we got enough evidence to really condemn them. All right. So I want to go here when it goes into it says, and this is probably like 6 pages, so I don't think I'm gonna go through all of it, but nonetheless, it is a good read. So it says here, the small hats submit that they are not the descendants of the ancient Israelites in their writings. Now it says under the heading of a brief history of the term JEW in the 1980 Jewish Amelek is the following. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a JEW or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. So going back to what I was mentioning earlier, Khazar, it says an ancient Turkic-speaking people who ruled a large and powerful state in the steppes north of the Caucasus Mountain from the 7th century AD to their demise in the mid-11th century AD. And you can read about that in the book by Arthur Koestler called The 13th Tribe. All right, it's a good read for those of you that's into history there. I mean, it's kind of, I won't say it's easy to follow, but it's not hard to follow either. You know what I'm saying? You just got to have the patience to read it and get through it and to understand where it's coming from and relay it to the scriptures. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm trying to type in this code. Bingo. All right. Salakia. Hold on 1 second. There we go. I'm trying to time out real quick. Come on. Hurry up. Yep, Salakia. Okay, anyway. So it says Khazar, an ancient Turkic-speaking people who ruled a large and powerful state in the steppes north of the Caucasus Mountains, which, you know, that term Caucasus, so-called Caucasian, right? It says mountains from the 7th century to their demise in the mid-11th century AD. It says in the 8th century, its political and religious head, as well as the greater part of the Khazar nobility, abandoned paganism and converted to Judaism. It says the Khazars are to believe to be the ancestors of most Russian and Eastern European Jews. Wait a minute, man. But I thought y'all were Israelites. But it says Russian and Eastern European Jews, like that guy, B.B. Malachowski. I believe he comes out of the Ukraine, if I'm not mistaken. But it says Khazars, confederate of Turkic and Iranian tribes that established a major commercial empire in the second half of the 6th century, covering the southeastern section of the modern European Russia. It says in the middle of the 8th century, the ruling classes adopted Judaism as their religion, and they used the whole fact about the whole Gog and Magog and Tubal as a cover-up to call themselves Japhetic peoples. But we understand that Esau pushed the Japhetic peoples out, which pretty much became the Aborigines of Australia, okay? Because you have a lot of Japhetic people that have been pushed down into the Pacific Islands and into Australia and different parts of Europe, okay? So Esau likes to hide behind that. Well, we're Japhetic peoples. No, you're Edomites, man. And that shows you the mentality of a vagabond and a criminal because he wants to hide himself. Okay, because Esau Edom is really on a wanted poster. He's wanted by Yahweh Shem Yahushai. So he's basically running from his identity because he don't want to be caught up with who he really is. And this is the reason why he persecutes you for calling yourself an Israelite, because he's the one that's in trouble. Okay, that's what Esau do. And this is the reason why they come up with that term anti-S or anti-Sem, which there's no such thing as Sem, but it's Shemitic, Shem, okay? Being a chosen line, right? But it reads, it says, in the middle of the 8th century, ruling classes adopted Judaism as their religion. All right, so it says Ashkenazim are one of the two major divisions of the JEWS, the others being the Sephardim. It says Ashkenazim, which Ashkenaz was a son of Japhet, but it says are the Jews whose ancestors lived in German lands, which they are not Ashkenazis. All right, they stole that identity. That's a made up. Well, it's not a made up term, but they assume the identity of the dark Europeans because the original Europeans were Japhetic peoples, people of color. They wasn't so-called white people as they try to make you believe. But it says it was among Ashkenazi Jews that the idea of political Zionism emerged, leading ultimately to the establishment of the State of Israel. But in the late 1960s, Ashkenazi Jews number some 11 million, about 84% of the world Jewish population. So wait a minute, man. How can you be descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but yet you call yourselves Ashkenaz, which Ashkenaz is not a descendant of Shem, okay, but instead of Japhet. So that's the disconnect there. So that's how can you jump from one bloodline to the next? Either you of Shem or you of this particular lineage, which, believe it or not, Amelek is of the line of Shem, okay, but he's just not the Israelite. Now it says here, Khazars, a non-Semitic, Asiatic, Mongolian tribal nation who immigrated into the Eastern Europe about the 1st century, who was converted as the entire nation to Judaism in the 7th century by expanding the Russian nation, which absorbed the entire Khazar population. It says, who account for the presence of Eastern Europe or the great numbers of Yiddish-speaking Jews in Russia, Poland, Lithuania, Galatia, Basbaria, and Romania. And they actually on point about that because the Khazars, they're not Shemitic because they don't come out of the line of Shem, but they are Japhetic because they come out of Japhet. So they got that on point. So Japhetic peoples are not Shemitic. So either you're Japhetic or you're Shemitic. But regardless of it, Esau, you're not Japhetic. You are Shemitic, but you're not a Shemitic. You're not a Hebrew Israelite. You're a Shemitic Hebrew Edomite. Okay, and you stole our identity, and that's in the scriptures. It says here, Khazars, a group of national and general Turkic type, independent and sovereign in Eastern Europe between the 7th and 10th centuries. And another thing too about those Turks, them Ottoman Turks, a lot of them Ottoman Turks were small hats, man. Okay, because you got to understand going into the history of when Esau lay with the daughters of Ishmael. Okay, so a lot of those Turks, a lot of them look like Arabs, but a lot of them are small hats too, man. And that's why they have that look to them, you see, because a lot of them migrated with them Arabs. But it says here, Eastern Europe between the 7th and 10th century CE, during the part of this time, the leading Khazar professed Judaism, which that's actually a bunch of, it's a mixture of teaching of the Torah and a lot of Babylonian religions and Judaism. Is really, they really read out of the Babylonian Talmud. It's really witchcraft. Okay, they put a little here and there. They mentioned the prophets and, you know, King David here and there, but the Judaism is not really solely based on the 5 pure books of the scriptures. It's not based on the Torah. Okay, and it's definitely not based on the Tanakh, which is the book of the prophets. It's not based on that. Okay, so when they say Judaism, it's really nothing but pagan beliefs, all mixed up into one with a little bit of the Hebrew writings in it, but that's not what they really believe in. Okay, for one thing, the law tells us to circumcise our kids with our mouths, man. Don't tell you Abraham he didn't circumcise Ishmael and his whole entire house and his servants by putting his mouth on his rod and biting it off and giving him herpes. No, he didn't circumcise his family that way. All right. And it says the Eastern Europe between the 7th and 10th century CE, during this part in time, the leading Khazars professed Judaism, but in spite of the negligible information of archaeological nature, the presence of Jewish groups and a pack of Jewish ideas in Eastern Europe are considered during the Middle Ages. But groups have been mentioned as migrating to Central Europe and East often have been referred to as Khazars, thus making it impossible to overlook the possibility that they originated from within the former Khazar Empire. All right, now it gets even deep when we go down here, but I'm not going to read all this because it's basically Esau. He's exposing himself. It says here, today's Jews, for the most part, are descendants of Khazars who converted to Judaism 7 centuries after the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. So how in the fuck can you be the people of the Lord when you've converted 7 centuries later? And that's what this devil tried to do. He basically tried to say, oh, the Romans or Edomites, which they are true. That is true. The Romans are Edomites. Because I have a book as well called The Roman Empire, the Empire of the Edomites. I have that book as well. And they, look, it's on point, man. But for him to sit up there and say, oh, the Romans, this and this and that, bro, those are your people. That's how the devil is, man. He likes to throw his own people under the bus. It's crazy how he likes to throw his own people under the bus when you're going to be destroyed right along with him. But it says here, this, of course, is inspired by the story of the covenant in Genesis when it applies that the Khazars too claim the status of the chosen race who made their own covenant with the Lord. It says, even though they, Khazars, were not descended from Abraham's seed, it says, he cannot and does not claim for them that the Khazars' Semitic descent, he traces their ancestry not to Shem, but to Noah's third son, Japhet, like I said, or more precisely, Japhet's grandson, which is Togarmah, the ancestor of all Turkish tribes, okay, which you have the Hawaiians that come out of today. Okay, so somebody's lying about that, Esau, and you're not Japhetic. Okay, you were Esau. All right, so matter of fact, let's get a precept real quick. This is the book of Job 15, and I'm going to start at verses 5, it says, for thy mouth uttereth thy iniquity, and thou choosest thy tongue of the crafty, man, because he is crafty. You know, they like to come because they have access to all of the libraries, the archives, they have the records, they have everything on everybody on the planet. So therefore, they're able to manipulate information through the resources. Okay, the scriptures say that the earth should be given into the hands of the wicked. Everybody know that the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the global elite are going back into these people here. And even when you read that book, Who is Esau Edom, when you get down and gritty, which I actually had that book, but I don't know what happened to it. I had it on a PDF, but I don't know what happened to it. Must have got deleted or it must be in a different file. But basically, when you go through that book, it tells you that the bloodline of the elites goes back into the seed of Satan or Esau, who is Esau Edom. So they already admitted it. And the elites know that. But it says here, thou thy own mouth condemneth thee, and not I, but yea, thy own lips testify against thee. So you're telling on yourself, man. Okay, matter of fact, like it tells us in the book of Proverbs, not Proverbs, Salakia. And Salakia, I'm all over the place. I didn't really put together this lesson, like put it together, but, you know, just off what I've been studying and researching and what we already know. I'm just going off the spirit. So it's not structured as in point A, point B, point C. This is solely off the spirit, and the spirit is having me to do it. So, and sometimes those be the best lessons, okay? Because it's not rehearsed. It's just what we know and what we should know. But this is the book of Psalm 64, and I'm going to start at verses 8. It says, so they should make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them should flee away. So you're getting caught red-handed, bro, okay? No matter how much you want to cover it up, you can come out with 1,000 anti-S bills to try to shut us up. At the end of the day, you can't stop us from who you can't stop Yahweh Shai from delivering his elect, and you damn sure can't stop yourself from going into captivity, bro. So Esau is a dead man walking, and he knows it. And this is why they're coming up with all these particular crafty modes to try to undergo and undermine Yahweh Shai. But like we said, they're going to be forced to face this truth and confront the men of the Lord. And that's something that they don't want to do. But reading again, it says, for thy mouth uttereth thy own and thy iniquity, and thou choosest the tongue of the crafty, and thy own mouth condemneth thee, and not I. Yeah, thy own lips testify against thee, man. All right, so you through telling on yourself. Okay, so let me go ahead and play a little bit more of this video, and then I'll go into this here just to prove the point, and then I'll go into a couple more passages, and Lord's will, that'll be edifying.
Of the Jews, you're an enemy of God, whether you like it or not.
If you read verses, let's say 14 to 15 in Isaiah, it speaks about this time when all those people that despised you and hated you will come to acknowledge your worth and your value. It's a complete about face that the scriptures speak about. So this day of the Lord is essentially a time when, number one, all of the people that persecuted Israel physically will stop and they will be punished. And all of those people who rejected Israel spiritually will acknowledge that they were wrong all along and that Israel was right.
And we're speaking about the destruction and the devastation and annihilation in the future of Edom. We spoke about how Edom originated on the Ever LaYarden, and then eventually they moved to Rome, to Italy. And then from there, the Christian world and the Western world is considered a continuum of Edom and of Esau. So now we're going to speak about the reasons why they are prophesied to be destroyed. You will be covered in shame, and you will be destroyed forever. The Ibn Ezra learns that these psukim are referring to the participation of Edom in Churban Bayis Rishon. Even though the first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed by the Babylonians, nevertheless, Edom is considered an accomplice to that because they stood by with their arms folded and watched as the Babylonians destroyed our temple. Not only that, they participated in terms of any Jews who fled there, they delivered back into the hands of the Babylonians.
And these people don't even seem like you can just see the spirit of guilt and deceit on him. Okay, he's not speaking with any conviction. He's just speaking with entitlement and just playing off people's emotions with conjecture, bro. That's all it is. He don't seem no sincerity. These are not people that's oppressed. You know how much money this man is worth? This man probably have $1 billion just all funding alone just because of who he is. Where are the scriptures that say that the true Hebrew Israelites in the time of the return of the Messiah, they was going to have all types of fundings and programs that's going to be set up to make sure they okay? Okay, because if that's the case, they wouldn't seem like a nation that was in trouble or need saving. But the scriptures tells us that no man shall buy thee. And when you go into that word buy, it goes into redeem. Okay, nobody's going to purchase us with money. Okay, we're going to be literally taken out of the hand out of you devils by the hands of Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, so how can you be the people of the Bible and yet you have all these handouts? You have political regimes in order to protect you. You have political systems that helps you fight wars. You're funded through wars, but I thought the Lord was fighting your battles. Okay, where in the Bible that the Hebrew Israelites, that are people, when we was oppressed by the enemy, that we received some type of tribute from heathens to fight our battles? And I mean, you did have, give or take, accounts that, you know, heathens did come to the aid in some cases, but overall it was Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai that delivered us from the hand of our enemies because we were made desolate. That ain't happening to you. You're getting literally billions of dollars from the United States every goddamn year, every other month or so. Okay, you're getting bailed out left and right. You own the banks, you own the corporations, okay, you own the research institutions, you own all these things. And on top of that, you own a world full of slaves, which human trafficking and slavery is the biggest, it's the most profitable business known to humanity if you look at it on a terms of trafficking people. You see? So how the hell are you or any danger or any debt or anything of that nature? Nobody's attacking you. Nobody can even come in your neighborhoods without getting approval from government authorities and so forth because you're living in gated communities. But wait a minute, I thought the Bible said that the Israelites was going to be snared in holes, man. Matter of fact, let me get this. Let me get this real quick. Then we'll go into a little bit more of that. Let's get the book of Isaiah 42 and go down to verses 24. And it says here, this is the book of Isaiah 42, and I'm going to start at verses 22. It says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. It says, and all of them are snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. When the fuck did that ever happen to your people? Okay, are your people living in fucking ghettos? Hell no, man. Our people, we can't even open up a goddamn chicken joint without it getting closed down or raided or unlawfully, you know, or just, we can't do anything without you being on our heads, man. Okay, we can't even open up a fucking gas station in our neighborhoods without E AU ED0M trying to tax us to death, man, or shut us down. But you don't have no problem. You got the whole Brooklyn Navy Yard. You have the Diamond District. You have all this shit. Okay, when you look at the means on the deeds on a lease, you own it. You own these developments, man. Like I remember one apartment complex I stayed in, and one of the buildings burned down. They said that the fucking owner was over there in Israel celebrating the Passover, man. They said he'd be over here in 4 days or whatever. They said after his Passover, he'd be over here in 7 days or some shit, man. I'm like, what the fuck, man? We just lost a whole crib, and yet he's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars off insurance claims of a building that they probably paid to get burnt down. But while he's over there eating his kosher pig and all this other shit, you know what I'm saying? But we over here displaced, you know. But he's coming from Israel. What the hell? Wait a minute, you in Israel? How the hell do you own business in America, man? But you oppress? Get the fuck out of here. That don't even make any sense. And it says here, but this is a people robbed and spoiled, and they are all of them hidden, snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey and none delivered, for a spoil and none shall restore. Now, the reason why you small hats are getting so much hatred now, because the internet is exposing you, as we just broke it down in Psalms, the 64th chapter. Their tongue shall fall upon themselves, and all men shall flee away. So now the internet is openly exposing your wickedness, man. Like out there in Brooklyn, not Brooklyn, but I believe what part of New York, they found that they was digging those tunnels, and they was coming out of them tunnels and shit like that. Hey, you expose yourself. You know, everybody is realizing that you are nothing but a loan shark. You're unjust. Okay, you don't show favor to the people. Hell, you even flushed your own people out of the wealth gap, to the point you got Edomites living lower than Jake. Okay, and another thing too, you clearly throwing your Edomite counterpart under the bus, talking about, oh well, you know, the Western Christendom and those are Edomites. The fuck out of here. They had to be financed to do these things. Okay, them Edomites that had slaves over here, hey, they were financed by you. And on top of that, what about all those small hats that was expelled out of Spain? They kicked you out of Spain because you were a bunch of unclean people. It wasn't because you were persecuted or because you were just trying to live a life. No, man. You stole from people. You robbed people. You murdered people. Okay, you dealt underhandedly. You shady business practices. You're loan sharks. Okay, you money hungry, man. They showed you that in that movie Uncut Gems. You know, with Adam Sandler, which I think Adam Sandler is actually a Jake, but he even make fun of his own small hat heritage. But I think Adam Sandler is an actual Jake. But they showed you in that movie Uncut Gems on how grimy and how fucking low you can be. So the Lord ain't coming back for you people, man. And you're going to find out. You and your whole counterparts are going to find out that you were never the people that the Lord have chosen. And you being exposed, bro. All right. But it says here, and it says, who among you will give ear to this, and who will hearken and hear for a time to come? It says, who gave Jacob for a spoil in Israel to the robbers? And you were the robbers, man. Okay, because it tells us in Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, I believe it's Isaiah 2, or maybe Jeremiah 2. I think it's Isaiah 2. But it goes that when the Lord comes back, then there will be peace in the land. Or when the Israelites are back in the land of Israel, then there will be peace on the earth. But ever since you were put back into that land based on the Balfour Declaration, which was actually propagated in the 1800s, they spoke about that. And that's what the whole concept of World War I and II was, to figure out how to put you in the land through political means. So therefore you can upset prophecy. But it didn't go the way it's planned, because when you got back into the land, the world got worse. All right. So clearly the Most High, there's a counterfeit somewhere. And clearly the Most High is not dealing with you. But it says, who gave Jacob for a spoil in Israel to the robbers? It says, did not the Lord, he against whom we have sinned? It reads, for they were not walking his ways, neither were they obedient to his law. Therefore he hath poured upon him the fear of his anger and the strength of battle, and it set him on fire round about. Yet he knew not, and it burned him, yet laid it not to his heart. And that ain't you small heads, because for one thing, you small heads, you don't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Okay, you have Pink City, you have Tel Aviv, which is Pink City. You have all types of, and for one thing, you go by a matriarch. You don't go by a patriarchal lineage. You go through the mother. And this is why every time you call an insurance company or your bank, they ask you, what's your mother's maiden name? You know what I'm saying? Because they identify you through your mother, but really it's through the seeds of your father. Okay, which proves that, once again, you ain't nothing but a counterfeit. And if you have all this knowledge about who you are, but wait a minute, it says here, and has set him on fire round about, yet he knew not. Our people don't consider that they're in hell because they're not keeping the commandments. But you have well-known fact that you were supposed to keep the commandments, and yet you still are at the bottom. That ain't your people, man. Okay, so once again, that's another lie you've been caught up in. And it burned him, yet he laid it not to his heart. Okay, which one of your women is smitten with baldness and fat and don't have well set hair, that's all over the place, that jump man to man, even though the Amalekite woman is she's just as bad as a typical Edomite woman. But those Amalekite women, man, they're really conservative at the end of the day. Like, if you get a Jewish bitch, hey, hey, you got good game, man, because hey, the small hat woman, hey, she's very, very conserved, man. And a lot of them you don't even know with small hats. But then again, Jake deal with them too. Like this dude, Jay Electronica, I believe he married a Rothschild, man. Hey, that's a come up for that nigga, man. He married a Rothschild, bro. But anyway, let's go into this article real quick. It says, the shocking truth, small hat control over American slavery. But it says the overwhelming majority of the small hats in America and European nations have at some point in their political life or continually utilized slavery as a malicious moral weapon against white European and American folk. It says not only to demonize our ancestors, but also to infer that contemporary Europeans are natural slavers in order to instill hatred of Europeans and non-Europeans and liberal-minded Europeans alike. And they throw that word European around loosely. Okay, which there Europa, Europe. There's no, you Edomites are not Europeans. Okay, and it wasn't called the land of Europe. Okay, you got Africa, and you got what they call the Middle East, which is Asia. You got Northern Asia, you got Western Asia, you got farther east. Okay, you have Northern. It's really the continent of Asia, man. All right. Then also you have Africa. Then you have different parts of the world like the Americas. Okay, so that whole concept of Europe, they throw that around loosely. But it says here, but if the white race is to be condemned in liberal press, why are not the small hats people condemned for the world's leading role in the slave trade over the last 2,000 years? But yet these guys are talking about, oh, well, they tore down the Roman temple and all this other shit. And you notice they didn't really mention slavery, because if they mentioned slavery, they would have to indirectly mention us, which proves that we're the people of the Bible, because the Israelites, it is prophesied that they will be in captivity up until the return of the Messiah that come to redeem us. So he had to leave that part out if you paid attention. But nonetheless, he did mention some things about Christians in the West being Esau, and he skipped the whole segment of history and say, well, because they destroyed the second temple. And the reason why he mentioned that, because he know that the average nigga can't research what happened in 70 AD. They don't go back that far, because they know Jake's history is pretty much always equated or a par with what happened in 1619 on up. Okay, they don't go beyond that, man, or before that, because they know Jake don't have the necessarily tools to research that far back. But all this information is coming out on these people. Now they're trying to run from it, and they're willing to lock anybody up that speaks against their pseudoscience. But it says, of course, the closest thing that approximates the ancient slave trade is today the white slave trade, prostitution, including the forced abasement and torture of hundreds of thousands of Eastern European women. It says, as readers of the David Duke report are aware, this nefarious activity is almost completely controlled by small hats, and much of it is based in Israel. But somehow, again, the small hats get no bad press from this. But again, it's really not hard to understand when one understands who controls the press. So there you go. You control the news media outlets. You control the corporations. You control what information goes on and what goes out. Okay, so there you go right there. They say, you want to know who run the world? It's the people that you can't talk about as who runs and pulls the strings. But it says the historical small hat domination of the slave trade is revealing about the three structure of the small hat Gentile conflict and the propaganda to which we are subjected. But it says, in fact, in the Hebrew Torah, the Old Testament, none other than Yahweh himself commands that no slaves will be made of your own people, but you can make slaves of your other people. Okay, and this goes into Leviticus 25 and 24. But it says a small hat supremacy also quotes major small hat historians bragging about their domination of the slave trade since ancient times. It says here, and many more recent writers of small hat history actually boast in their incredible domination of the triangular slave trade between Africa, West Indies, and American colonies, which were Israelites. All right. It says the small hats or Jewish slave trains moved across Europe from Germany to Verdun and finally Muslim Spain, which the first slave trade started in Portugal and Spain in 1504, which was so-called black people. But it says with enslaved humans that originated in Bohemia, Bavaria, and remoter Slavic lands. But they carried slaves, furs, swords to the small hats, converted Khazar kingdom on the Volga when they traveled eastward to China, which proves you had Israelites there as well. Like a lot of those Filipinos, a lot of those are Israelites, man. Okay, but it says here, at that time in history, blacks from Africa, whites from the Balkans, Eastern Europe, and the Caucasus, and Mongols were traded as slaves by small hats and Islamic traders, which a lot of those Balkans and a lot of those that kind of like the Irish and shit like that, a lot of those were Israelites, man. Okay, because remember, even prior to then, if you go into the book Nature Knows No Color Line, Jacob was marrying into those nobilities. Them white women was marrying them Jakes, man, and them Jakes were popping them white women, man. So a lot of them so-called white slaves that look like Edomites were actually Jakes. A lot of them Moabites they brought over here to build the railroads, a lot of them were Jakes, man. All right. But it says here, according to an interview by the Orthodox Rabbi Lodi Van de Kemp to the Small Hat Telegraphic Agency newspaper on December 26, 2013, it says money was earned by small hat communities in South America, partly through slavery, and went to Holland where small hats bankers handled it. But it says in one area of what used to be Dutch Guiana, I can't pronounce that word, but I've said it 1,000 times. But 40 Jewish-owned plantations were home to the total population of at least 5,000 slaves. It says, he says, known as the Joden Savannah or Small Hat Savannah, the area had small hat community of several hundreds before its destruction in a slave uprising in 1832. But it says nearly all of them immigrated to Holland, bringing their accumulated wealth with them. See, there you go, because they got money from Jake. It says the West India Company, which monopolizes imports of slaves from Africa, sold slaves at public auctions against cash payments. But it happened that cash was mostly in the hands of the small hats. But the buyers who appeared at auctions were almost always small hats. And because of this lack of competitors, they could buy slaves at low prices. Wow. It says, on the other hand, it says There also was no competition in selling of the slaves of the plant or to the plantation owners and buyers, and most of them purchased on credit payable at the next harvest sugar. And that whole credit shit started by them. But profits up to 300% of the purchase value were often realized with high interest rates. And who was known to put interest on people? Amelek, man. Okay. Now it says the following is a partial list of the slave ships owned by the small hats. It says Abigail, owned by Aaron Lopez, which we know very well about him. It says Moses Levy and Jacob Franks. It says Crown, owned by Isaac Levy and Nathan Simpson. Nassau, owned by Moses Levy. Four Sisters, owned by Moses Levy. Ann and Alicia, owned by Justice Botch and John Abrams. Prudent Betty, owned by Henry Cougar and Jacob Phoenix, have something that's called the Hester, which is owned by Mordecai and David Gomez, and Elizabeth, owned by David and Mordecai Gomez, and Antigua, known by Nathan Marston and Abram Liel. Bestie, owned by by W.M. D. Wolf. Huey, owned by James D. Wolf, and the White Horse, owned by James D. Sweeps, however the hell you pronounce that. And I believe in that movie, Leave the World Behind, I believe that ship that docked was called White Horse, if I'm not mistaken, which was basically a ship owned by small hats. But it says Expedition, owned by John and Jacob Roosevelt, and Charlotte, owned by Moses and Sam Levy and Jacob Franks. It says Caracoa, owned by Moses and Sam Levy. Slave Runners, also owned by small hats, were the La Fortuna and the Hannah and the Sally and the Venue, and not to mention the good ship Jesus, as they call it. All right. So yeah, man, this is some good information, and I'm gonna have to go through the whole thing, but this is definitely a eye opener, man. And Esau, he can't get away from that. All right, he can't get away from it because this clearly didn't happen to him. So let's go to Deuteronomy 28, and Deuteronomy 28, and let's start at verses 40. Yep, let's start at verses what's the yoke of iron? For one thing, these are the curses, but this is the book of Deuteronomy 28, and I'm going to start at verses 48. And it says, therefore, should thou serve thy enemies which Yahweh shall send against thee in hunger and thirst and in nakedness and the one of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. When have that ever happened to the small hats? Okay, now when you Google yoke of iron, it goes into those weights that we had around our neck, and the primary depictor of that is that movie Django. At the beginning, when they had the yoke of iron, that's what that is. And it says here, and the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle fly, this nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And it came up the other day that it was one, I believe it was back in like 1899 or something like that. It was this one Jake slave, I believe it was like a Jake. They said they called him he was like a Hebrew Negro or some shit. And they said that they had him on council in the courts because he basically refused to do what the slaver said, but he couldn't understand what the slave said because, you know, the slave, Jake, he spoke Hebrew and the Edomite spoke pretty much English, so he didn't understand, but yet they put his ass on trial anyway. But hey, it goes here, it says a nation of fierce countenance. Matter of fact, it says here, whose tongue thou shalt not understand, because remember, we had this language beaten to us. Okay, swing a little sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. When I look up, there's a band of angels flying over the Jordan River east. That's a slave hymn. That's an Israelite song. Okay, so these are little small context clues that people, even in history, they seem to undergo. They seem to overlook. Like this guy Vocab Malone. There's enough evidence in the videos that we push out to prove that we're the Israelites, all right? And all the talking points we bring out, they like to turn it, and which proves he's an Edomite because the scriptures say they should be like the deaf adder that stoppeth their ear. Okay, so they're not trying to hear this information because deep down inside they're cut by it. So this clown is sitting up here coming at us, trying to disprove us, but yet your own people of your own kind is saying that you're the Edomite. So you need to address them and leave us the fuck alone because, hey, regardless of it, you can't upset prophecy. Okay, we'll see when Yahweh shall get back here when he cracked them clouds. You're going to see you're going to see exactly what manner of man he is. Okay, you're going to realize that these people that's getting beamed up in the ships are going to be people of color. And give or take, you're going to have people that looks like other ethnicities. But even then, you know, that's coming from the diaspora because we married into the other nations. We were scattered abroad and, you know, that's what happens. That's called genetics, right? But overall, you're going to see that it was us the whole time and not you. And it says here, it says, a yoke of iron upon thy neck till you have destroyed thee. And the modern day yoke of iron is this digital slavery that they're trying to incorporate us in, man. Like right now, we're contractual slaves. That's that yoke of iron now, because once you in the system, it's hard to get out. You see? One more precept here. I think I had another document, but I guess that's it. But I'll end it after this. This is the book of Ezekiel 36, and I'm gonna start at verses. Let's start at verses 4. It says, therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the words of the Lord Yahweh. And thus says the Lord Yahweh, to the mountains and to the hills and to the rivers and to the valleys and to the desolate wastes, to the cities that forsaken, which become a prey and derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. You small hats. Therefore, thus says the Lord Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy I have spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. Idumea is another way of saying Esau, which you rabbis, you small hat, you are all part of it, okay? B.B. Milikowski, all you guys, man. You know, you Bloombergs, you Oppenheimer, that's you. It says, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. Okay, so there you go. It says right here now, name one time that you Edomites have had our land completely to yourselves, man. Even though you were surrounded by so-called Palestinians and Ethiopians and Arab, all that, but even the real Palestinians goes back into the Philistines, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they were Hamitic people. They was not Arabs, you know, because even Arab just mean mixed. Okay, but even then, when has this ever happened? But it says, against all Idumea, which is including you small hats, which have appointed my land into their possession with joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. Go over there and say, yeah, we are the Hebrew Israelites, man. They'll lock your ass up. A lot of them jakes that went back over to Dimona, a lot of them are getting ill-treated, okay? You have to join the Israeli army. And on top of that, you're living separate from the better ups of that society. So proves right there that you jakes are still under the curses. So it wouldn't be a wise thing to go to the land of Israel right now, because the Most High is going to destroy it. But anyway, where's the scripture here? It says that our land will be trodden down to the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Matter of fact, let me look that up and I'll end it. Gentiles fulfilled. Luke 21 and 24. It says here, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall lead away captive into all nations. See, you small hats, you only go as far as you being spread among the European nations, man. But a lot of you were kicked out because of your ill doings. But Jake was already over here, man. Even during the time of Yahweh, you had the northern kingdom that was already on this side of the world. It says, and Jerusalem should be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, which is now. And it says, and there should be signs in the sun and in the moon and the stars upon the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity in the sea and waves roaring. Men's hearts fell in them for fear and looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven should be shaken, and then shall they see the signs of the Son of Man coming in the cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to end it. Slaki, I was kind of all over the place, man, but I wanted to get as much information in as I possibly can. But, you know, videos like this deserve a 2, 3, 4, 5 part-up series, because this ain't just one video you can do and get it all out. There's so much information out there regarding this topic, and it's to the point Esau, he's on the ropes, man. He's through. If this video alone didn't expose their ass, I don't know what will. But with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you were edified. To the next lesson. Shalom.